Hello, everyone. We'd like to welcome you out to this TestOut webinar. We're very grateful you've joined us, and we have a very fantastic topic today that both Jeff and Shawn have worked really hard on. So today we wanted to present a topic on teaching Microsoft Office, and this is something that we do a lot different than other course providers, and it's something that we're very passionate about. The two people we'll have on today is Jeff Randall. Jeff's been with TestOut for 6 years, and he has 13 years in both education and certification. So he's been around for a while. He's got very great research and thoughts and opinions when it comes behind how to instruct those in Microsoft Office. And we have Shawn Ridenour on here. He's a senior software engineer for TestOut. He's been here for 7 years, and he's worked on many of our courses, such as Office Pro, IT Fundamentals Pro. He's worked a lot on the LabSim platform to make sure that our courses can be delivered effectively. And he's going to walk us through a new feature that we have coming out at the beginning of August that's live in-app projects for Office Pro. We're very excited for that. And with that short introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and we're happy to hear everything that he's prepared for us. Jeff.
All right, thank you, Adam, appreciate that. And I actually want to start my first slide with like what the end slide would be. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to us. Your interest in Office Pro, your interest in TestOut. We have probably a huge mix of people on the webinar, from high schools to colleges, and for whatever reason, your reason for attending and what you're hoping to get, we hope that your time is well spent and that we're able to provide the information that you need. Like Adam said, at the end, we hope that there'll be interest in using Office Pro in your school. We think that every teacher needs to make the best decision for their students and what's going to work. And we're excited to show Office Pro to you and a new feature. And so, again, thank you for whatever reason, and hopefully what you're attending, hopefully you get what you're looking for out of this. So to begin with, I think we start with webinars, and people say all the different things that they've accomplished and why they're one of the presenters of a webinar. But to be honest with you, I'm just a regular person. I've not been a teacher. I'm not a content expert. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not an Office guru on this. I'm not a public speaker. You'll find that out really quickly. I'm actually very nervous in doing something like this. So the question is, why am I a presenter for Office Pro if I don't have any of those type of credentials? But as Adam said, I have had 13 years experience. A lot of it's been behind the scenes, working with training and certification for Microsoft Office. And I've had different roles. I started off at Certiport, which does the Microsoft Office certification. And just the different jobs that I've had in both companies, I've had an opportunity to listen and talk, and especially learn from teachers in all these segments from high schools and colleges. And honestly, it's been fascinating for me to see how the skills for Office haven't changed, but how it's being delivered has dramatically changed over the time that I've been involved. Like, a lot of teachers at one time were using a textbook, and then textbooks to a CD, then the auto graders, and then simulation labs, and things were moving into online. Now you need the capabilities for different type of computers and LMS integration. So again, the skills haven't changed, but the delivery has really evolved, and it seems like every couple of years someone's raising the bar. And I honestly think that with Office Pro and TestOut, I think you kind of get the package together. We've raised the bar in a lot of areas, and because we're the last ones to the game here. Other publishers have been providing Office training for a long time, but when we got into about 5 years ago, we took it from a different approach. We looked at what other people are doing. We asked a lot of questions, and we said, well, how can we make this different? How can we make it better? And we've continued to improve our course over the time. And today, adding that final piece of Live Labs is very exciting for us. And then you put it all together, I feel it's pretty impressive. Another reason why I'm on this this webinar is I am very passionate about Office Pro. This isn't my day job. This isn't something I normally do, presenting Office Pro, but I really believe in this course. When I started off at Certiport, I didn't know how to use a computer very well. I didn't know how to do Excel. And I was embarrassed in my first job because I was always asking people how to do things. I didn't have good training, and I had to struggle, and I learned things pretty much the wrong way. And so when I saw Office Pro, it was like, I wish I would have had that. It resonates with me. I thought I could have learned a lot better if I had that kind of a product. But also, I've had the opportunity to speak with instructors that have been using Office Pro for the last several years and ask a lot of questions like, what's been different? What's changed? How are you using it? And I've been fascinated, absolutely fascinated how different everybody is using Office Pro in their classrooms from high schools to colleges to meet their students' needs, but yet adapting it to their school or the way they do things and still having great success. And so I was trying to track at one time how many different ways people were using it, and it was a lot. I kind of walked away saying there's not a single way of using this, but if they kind of stick to a certain methodology, there was success everywhere. So I became a big believer because of that. The biggest reason why I'm passionate about Office Pro is because of an experience with my daughter, who was struggling. Sorry, I'm emotional, I apologize, but this is very real for me. She was struggling with school, getting D's. She's in 9th grade. I took this class, and I was excited that she was going to take it because I was like, hey, you get to finally get to see what I do for a living and understand. And so we did have that, but her method of wanting to get answers and how she was trying to use Office Pro in the beginning was comical for me. But I'm going to share some experiences with my daughter. But if you don't know a lot about TestOut, we're a different kind of company. We're not building courses to build skill, to teach skills, and so students get a grade and put a price sticker on and try to sell it. We have a bigger purpose and a desire. We're like teachers. We have a desire to make a difference. The time that you have with a student, you put your energy, your passion, your knowledge to every subject so that when you're with a student, you're making an impact. That's how we are here at TestOut. From the development, every single person that works here believes in what we do, not because of the skills that we teach, but how we teach it. We want to make a difference with the way that as a publisher that we can put our energy and our passion and desire to make a difference in a student's life comes through. And so when I watch that happen, all the things we talk about as a company of how we want to help the student, we want to make it easy. We want to help students that don't have any experience using a computer, like me. Like, I didn't have any experience. How do I start something when I don't even have any skills to begin with? We keep those things in mind. We want to help that at-risk student. In colleges, retention is really important. You have students from all different walks of life and different backgrounds. How do you keep them from feeling overwhelmed and feeling stupid, like I did when I first started? You want to keep them away from those feelings so they can feel confident. They feel like they can do this. And to the end goal, we want students to become proficient. And there is a way to do it. And and also the biggest goal is that a student would end a certification at the end. And I watched that happen with my daughter. everything we talk about as a company. Making a difference, helping students feel confident. It was the only class she got an A+. She got her grades up in a few of the other classes, but she got an A+. She had 100% on every single assignment with Office Pro. She earned her Microsoft certification. And it was also during the time when they had to go from being in the classroom to online and just didn't skip a beat. It was just a seamless transition for her and her friends, and they all did really well. And so seeing that happen from a different point of view made me just so a believer, not in just Office Pro, but what we as a company are trying to do to help not only instructors, but students to do more with what we're giving you. This isn't about skills, it's about mastering skills. Becoming proficient, this is such a big subject and so important for students to have those skills in to be better as a student in the workforce. And if you know what you're doing, you know, tasks become easier, your job becomes easier, what you need to do at school becomes easier. And that's why we have teachers from high school and college on the same call, because you're teaching the same thing, can use the same product and just tweak it a little bit differently for your needs and have the same great success. So that's why I'm here, because I love this. I think this is really, really great, and I'm excited to share with you why I think we've raised the bar on Office training and how students can become master skills and be very proficient in their certifications that we do. So, like I said, there's a methodology. There's nothing unique here in the idea of a methodology of, you know, learn, guided practice, apply skills, validation, certification. On the surface, this again seems very familiar to what other people might be offering, but it's like I was saying before, it's what's happening behind the scenes, and it's what we're trying to do. And by the end of this, if maybe Office Pro isn't going to be the right thing for you and your school or your students, but hopefully you can appreciate what we're trying to do and how we're doing it. We spent a lot of extra time and effort to do things the right way to help students, to give them the very best experience. We didn't cut corners. So again, teaching skills is teaching skills, but there's some ways you can do it more effectively than others. So when we start to show you some things, you may say, well, that just looks very similar to what I've already been using or have had to use. So how is this any different? How have you raised the bar here? And it's going to be the little details behind the scenes that are going to make the difference. And when we put it all together, again, it becomes pretty impressive. So to start off with, I'm going to give you some kind of reasons why I like Office Pro. And this was a quote from one of the teachers I was talking to that said, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you're not responding to problems. And so what we mean by that is Office Pro can be used without having Microsoft Office installed or Windows installed. So students that are online and they don't have Microsoft Office yet, or they're using a Mac or Chromebook or a PC, you take away that problem, you can get started very easily and get learning. So you're not dealing with installation issues or students coming and saying, well, I don't have that, so how am I supposed to learn? I'll go find another computer, go to a library. You take a lot of that friction out. You just get started learning, and how great that is. Another thing we've done to make it really easy, again, for every type of student to start learning, is we're not going to be using files. So there's not a difficult navigation to find files, upload, save, download, find again, and submit for grading. We make this very simple. One click, there you are. One click, it's created, and I'll show you how that works. But by taking away that file management issue, it makes it very simple. It also means that students can't copy, they can't save, they can't share files. This is more of a benefit to the teachers. I was talking to one and I asked, so what's one of your favorite things about Office Pro? And he said, honestly, for me, it's because students can't cheat. You'll notice that we won't show you integrity cheating software here, because the way that we've been designing things is we wanted to keep the teacher out of that situation. It's an uncomfortable situation, and that's what this teacher said exactly. It's like, it gets confrontational. I don't enjoy telling a student that that they've cheated. And so I really appreciate the fact that they can. And so you take away some of these problems, you're already started off on a good foot. So what's included in Office Pro? You can break it up into three main parts. The first one, this would be more relevant for colleges, but we have 2 chapters that are on cover computer concepts. The next major section is the Office applications. We have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, and Outlook. All those are included. And all of these are cover the objectives to the Microsoft Office certifications. And the third part is practice tests. And we have practice exams for 2 types of certifications. But TestOut, again, our goal is that every student can earn a certification. So for high schools, we know a lot of them are trying to get their students to pass the Microsoft Office. So we have practice tests included to get them ready there. But maybe in college, that's not important or it's not needed, but you still want to assess the students and their knowledge. So we have a certification that covers Word, Excel, and PowerPoint in a single exam. I'm not sure which one's more difficult to do one application at a time and then be tested, or to be proficient in all 3 and then test on all 3 at once. So they're both great certifications, and we have practice tests for both. The other thing I want to explain is, again, helping to build towards proficiency is breaking up the skills into bite-sized chunks. So a lot of other publishers use multiple chapters. We only use 1 chapter. So Word, for instance, is a chapter. Excel is a chapter. But inside, we break it up into multiple sections. So Word will have 12 sections. So a student is actually trying to learn fewer skills at a time than trying to learn a bunch at once. And so we think that helps students learn and master skills a little bit better before they start moving on to others. So each section is about 1 hour and 15 minutes that if a student was to go all the way through from beginning to end. We're not cutting corners, and again, that's average. It could be a little longer, could be a little shorter, depending on the type of subject being taught. But that is kind of our menu and our outline that we'll go through. Now we're going to explain kind of the details, what's inside of a section, and the methodology the student is going to learn. So the first part of it is learn. And nothing unique here. Learning is learning. But what is unique is that we don't have a textbook. We've taken all the content that would be in a textbook and have put it into our instructor-led video. So anything with an icon that looks like a video are instructor-led videos. Anything with a little document or reading assignments or for review. So again, taking all that stuff that you would see in a textbook and also what you might do as a teacher and instructing students and put those all into some videos for students. And so now we'll go ahead and I'm going to flip from a PowerPoint and we'll start jumping into the product. Okay. So I'm not sure where I was. We'll just pick one of these things. So let's just go ahead and click on one of our videos. So we wanted to give the students options of how they would like to learn, because every student learns a little bit differently. Some would be happy just watching the videos, but others would like to see the words or the script. So we provide those 2 options. The student can watch the video or play with an interactive script. And I should put this down. Okay, we have 5 different instructors. The videos are all about under 4.5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes long. So we keep them short, to the point. And you might watch 3 or 4 in a section, and it starts off introducing, and then it goes into the demonstration. So again, student can watch it just through the video, or they can click interactive script, and they can follow along. The blue is where the instructor is at in the video. If a student wanted to use this as a review, they could just go back and click anywhere they want on the video, and the video just goes to that part. We have closed captioning. We have some really cool other features. You can change the speed of the video. So I don't really want to go into a lot of depth about this, but I think we really have raised the bar on how students can learn with the interactive text and the videos. really want to just more address, like, how do schools use this? Because sometimes when we show this, they look at them like, well, wait a minute, well, how would I use this? This looks like it just replaces me as the teacher. I would usually give those discussions. So as I was saying, Office Pro is very adaptable, it's very flexible. In some schools, they don't use the videos at all. It's used mainly for review, or if students miss class for extended period of time, or just miss class, they can use the video so they aren't losing any time. This was great for my daughter. They didn't really use the videos in her class, but when they moved to online, this became a huge help for them because they got that same type of instruction that they would have had in school. Some schools use it as homework and before they come into class, and then the instructor continues to do the typical activities and lectures that they've always have done in the past, so they keep what they've done really well. And for other new instructors, maybe teaching it for the first time, we also have additional activities and slide presentations that go along with the videos that right out of the gate, you can be very successful. So again, this is one of those flexible pieces you can use in different ways. So those are our videos. Now let's move on to the next part of our methodology. All right, and this is what I call why I like Office Pro, and this is an experience with my daughter. It's like, Dad, just give me the answer. That's what I'm going to call this. Dad, just give me the answer. So the next part is the guided practice, and we have created 2 labs. Most publishers and most vendors include 1. It's like how you learn the skills. We've built 2. I'm going to show both of them to you. Now, the first one we're going to focus on is the skills lab. All right, so let me come out of here and jump back into here. And because we have instructors from colleges on, I'm going to come into our computer essentials and do a file management lab. And we'll go into our skills lab. And we have to start. Again, everything is just one click. There's no difficult navigation of any kind. I'm not finding files or to start or upload. I just click start and here we go. Again, on the surface, this may look like a typical simulation lab. You have tasks on the left-hand side that a student would complete. They can reset the task, skip the task. We provide 2 hints, a text hint and a video hint. So there's really no reason why a student can't complete the skills lab 100% because we can basically give them the answers to this. So how did we raise the bar with the skills lab when this looks like a typical simulation? Again, it's not on the surface, it's underneath. So what we're trying to do is develop critical thinking skills and also proficiency. And how do you do that if students are just memorizing answers to tasks? So we actually spent a lot of time building Office Pro to do what I'm going to show you here. It's important that as students to use critical thinking skills, they need to have an experience with Office that feels like Office. So in our simulation lab, you'll see that we only give 1 feedback, and that is that the student is correct. We don't give any feedback that they're wrong, and then that we feel is very, very important because you learn from your mistakes. And so it's important that students start learning how to read questions, and as they try to answer, and if they make mistakes and they don't receive this feedback saying they're correct, they know that something's wrong and they need to go back and fix that. But if I get this question, another thing that we do with our simulation is we know that there's more than 1 way to do things with Office. So we spent the extra time and effort to put in what we call alternate paths. Students can use shortcut keys or go a different way. If as long as it's right, it's right. If it would have worked in the real world, it should work here in the simulations as well. So here I could go to the documents folder this way, or close this out. I could type File Explorer here, go there. So it's again, like it's important for students in the very beginning to have an experience or a feel of Office not a condensed version of what Office would do, or with a lot of guardrails around it, but how can you use simulation to enhance the learning experience? So I think again, how we're doing this is amazing, because a student could continue to make a mistake. I'm right so far, I went one way, but what if I hit the desktop and I created a new folder? It's letting me do that. I'm wrong, and it's not telling me I'm wrong, but that's all part of the learning process. Now, at first, when I saw this, I'm like, isn't it easier if you just told the students that it was wrong so they learn it the right way? Until I watched really my daughter actually do this very same task. And it became comical for me, and I actually videotaped her doing it because I was laughing because she was doing it wrong every single time, and it took about 2 minutes, and she was getting absolutely frustrated. And she's coming in, and she's like, good documents folder, and create a new one, and Econ 100, and do something wrong, and then she'd kind of scream and say, why is this not working? You guys made a mistake. I said, no, just keep reading the question. Eventually, she had this little aha moment that she was doing it wrong, and did it right and went on. And afterwards, I talked with her and said, was it frustrating for you that you were continually making a mistake and it wasn't telling you what you were doing wrong? And she said, well, yeah, at first I was, but it's like playing the piano. Every now and again you hit the wrong key, but when you hit the wrong key, you learn. So I was actually learning what not to do, and because I'm still trying to learn all of it. So being able to make a mistake wasn't really a bad thing. I actually appreciated it. So I thought that was very insightful for a ninth grader to come up with them, because that's exactly what the labs were designed to do. It builds critical thinking skills. And so the change that I watched happen with her was her frustration in the beginning in doing the labs this way, to learning that she could find her own answers. She wasn't coming and say, Dad, just give me the answer. I'm sure you all have had students that just get frustrated and they just go, you're the path of least resistance. I don't really want to figure it out. You tell me so I can move on. You'll get to notice that your students will start to find their own answers. Or because the simulations work with multiple paths, they won't have problems. They'll be able to use the shortcut keys they know, or you go a different way, and they aren't going to be scored incorrectly. So maybe I should do this correctly. I've been talking and I should have been doing the simulation at the same time. Again, this isn't something I normally do. This we'll delete, yes, we'll go into our documents folder. We need to create a new one. Econ 100. There's our good job task completed. Now, if I had gone through this and I struggled and I was like, I really don't know what to do, and I hit a hint and I complete the task, I'll still receive feedback that I did it right, but it'll say, you'll now need to do this again, but without using hints. So a student has to complete all the tasks in this lab without using hints before they can get 100%. So, all right, because we're of time, we need to do this. Score our lab. I got that first one correct. Yay. So that is our skills lab. Now, like I said before, we have two types of labs the student needs to go through: a skills and a challenge. You might ask, well, why do you have this another lab? Well, before building Office Pro, we went and talked to a lot of teachers and said, what's missing? What do students need to become proficient? And the answer came back time over and over and over again, there needs to be more drill and practice. And when you really stop and think about it, Office is nothing more than performance-based skills, like math. There's order of operations, there's the way of doing things. You'll see skills in different ways. Need to use skills in different ways. So the only way to become proficient is to actually practice it. You can't imagine what a math class would be like if a teacher showed how to do a formula and you copied and just followed along, and then all of a sudden you're doing an assessment. There was no practice involved. It doesn't work that way. So having this just makes sense. It's a natural next step in that path of mastering skills. So we've developed, I think we are the only ones that have another lab that puts students through a drill and practice scenario. So I'm going to come into PowerPoint, and we'll go to Designing Slides, Challenge Lab. So our Challenge Lab works very similar, the same way as our Skills Lab. And I'm just looking at the time, and I need to speed this up a little bit. So I'm not going to go through a lot of depth. So the Challenge Lab is a drill and practice. It's different every time a student launches it. So I'm really only going to hit Score Lab. Notice this was the early life of Claude Monet. Score Lab, done. Start the lab again. And it'll be different. It'll be here. Democracy in America. We'll hit Score Lab. Done. We'll start it one more time. And the purpose of us changing, we'll change the questions, we'll change the order. We're keeping the students on their toes because we have to do that so they're not just memorizing. Memorizing doesn't help them in the real world. They have to be able to look at things differently and say, okay, how do I interpret this skill to this new document or this new challenge? So they're going to see different things with the challenge. Like this is the second piece of the secret sauce, if you were to say, in mastering skills, is drill and practice. We've also noticed that schools that really adopt this, the time that they take in the projects, the next thing, is dramatically less. So the average time a student spends doing a project, our next thing I'm going to show you, is under 10 minutes. And the average score is 86%. That's phenomenal. So again, the more you practice, the better you get, the less time it takes, and the more confident you become, and the better your scores and rates are. So this is our challenge lab. Again, if I hit begin, sorry, I need to explain just a couple more things. We take away the video hint and leave the text hint, so they still can get help. The difference here is if they use a hint, they don't get the full point. And so when we score this lab is actually graded by time and graded by time and correct answers. So their name will show right here. We block out everybody else's name they can only see, and this is kind of a leaderboard. They'll see where they rank with their class, their school, and worldwide. So this is another really kind of fun way. High schools can use some challenges, like put classrooms against classrooms so you can have the highest scores. But really, this is all about the individual student realizing that the more I practice, the better I get. So the first time I do this, it might take me 9 minutes. The second time, 4 minutes. The third time, 2 minutes. And so they just see that it's a visual way of showing their progression and getting better. Okay, the last thing that I need to show right here before turning it over to Shawn is our next part, which is our applied labs. These are our versions of projects, but we're going to use simulation at this point. We're adding live now, and Shawn is going to show that here in just a second. But to be successful, you don't need to use the live labs. You can stick with just what's here in the sections, because this is going to be the same type of experience as if a student was using Office. There we go. The simple formulas. Let's go to the grade book. So in our projects, it's just one start lab. They don't have to go out and find a file. They don't have to try to minimize screens or split screens or have multiple screens. It's all going to be right here, which is great. At the end, they don't have to save it to a confusing name, find it later, submit for grading. It's just going to be very, very simple. The other thing that's really great about the way we do things here behind the scenes, again, is how we grade. We don't use clip compare. What we use is document compare. So it's typical with some maybe other auto graders. I'm going to do something really crazy just because I'm getting older. I want to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to make this, well, no, I increase the font. I want to increase the font size. Something like this would throw a grader completely off. One little tiny error can cause a cascade of errors. Well, that's not how we grade. We grade looking at the right answer. And something like this wouldn't throw off the grading. So here I'm supposed to find Use the auto sum. But again, right is right. So there's different ways in Excel to do something. So I could use formula, I could do the arithmetic, it wouldn't matter as long as they were doing something correct. Now, if I just typed in numbers, like let's say I got another student said, here's all the numbers, you just need to type them in, they would actually get all those wrong because it is looking for something formula based here. Go all the way through, I'm gonna have my grade, final percentage, divided by 100. And I'm sorry that I'm starting to speed things up. So this is our version of a project. It gives them the same experience of being in Office. They're not going to be told that they've made a mistake until they score. And I'll let them do anything that they could do like in Office in the same environment. So all those positives there, it just takes away the negatives. Like negatives, the students can't cheat. Negatives, they can't lose files. Negative that, I have to split my screen, it's really small, or I have to print out the instructions. So it makes it very, very smooth and very, very easy for students. So I'm gonna hit the score lab and notice that even though I increased the font size and changed the column width, it didn't affect the scoring or my grade. And that's great because you don't want students coming to you saying, I did it right, but it scored me wrong. And then you have to go in and fix things. So taking out a whole nother problem that the teachers don't need to worry about. And again, we think this is really beneficial to the student and beneficial to the teachers. All right, so that is my portion. I'm going to turn it over now to Shawn, who's going to talk about the next layer in our methodology. We move from guided practice into planning, and Shawn's going to show our live projects.
All right, thanks, Jeff. We've been working on live projects for a while, and we're excited to give you a quick demonstration of how to work. We'll be releasing live labs with the 6.1 version of Office Pro on August 4th, and we've added 9 live labs to the project. We're putting in 3 into Word, 3 into Excel, and 3 into PowerPoint. The live labs are at the end of the chapters because the live projects will cover multiple sections of what the students learned in each. Today we're going to demo an Excel project to analyze sales data. This is a lab that students can use to assess their proficiency with formulas and get them practice inside of the live Office application. Before we start, I wanted to note that live projects will work on Windows or on Macs, where the student has Office 2010, 2013, 2016, 2019, or the desktop version of Office 365 installed. They won't work with the online version of Office in a browser on Chromebooks or on Office for phones or tablets. Our live projects is an optional part of the course. Everything we're asking students to do in the live projects, we've also taught across the 349 simulations we have in our course. So students who don't have Office installed will still be able to become proficient for Office. This is just frosting on the cake for students who have access to that. As I start the lab, you'll notice that I'm going to open our project directly into Excel. I didn't have to download and save it anywhere. We're reading and writing it directly back to our servers. You can see that LabSim is detected that we've opened up the project and we're ready to start working. As soon as I go in and make a change to save it back, we can see that it's saved directly back to our servers. The student didn't have to give it a special name, go and figure out where it was saved on their computer and upload it back to our servers. I know that trips up people who aren't very experienced with Windows or Macs, and we're just trying to make it as smooth as we can for the students to give them the best possible experience. And that's all they have to do. And if I wanted to now, I could close it and I've got the lab in progress and ready to go. Looking back at our LabSim page, we can see that these are the tasks we want the student to do. We've been working with Microsoft to add another feature. We've created a free add-in to Microsoft Office that'll work in Excel, PowerPoint, or Word, where the student can, if they want, have this add-in installed for free, and it's easy. It'll be in the App Store, where they can view the task directly inside of Excel, PowerPoint, or Word. And I've opened it up here, and we can see that we can do what our first task is. Because I'm using the add-in, I don't have to go to a split screen view. I can now just go Excel full screen, and we can start on the first task. The first task is to calculate the average of the January and February sales using a formula. We don't care what the formula is, as long as they get to the right answer, and they do use a formula. So for the first task, we will just do an algebraic equation. We'll say we want the sum of B2 and C2, January and February here, divided by 2, and that is the average we're expecting. So I'll go ahead and flash fill this down to finish the first task. Then using the task guide, I can track my progress, and I'll say that I'm done with this one. I'll move on to the second task. The second task is we want the average of March and April. Here we'll go ahead and use the Excel function average, and either path we take to calculate the average, as long as we get to the right answer, we'll give the student credit for doing it right. So here we're going to want the average of D2 and E2, and that's what we were expecting. So we can go ahead and flash fill this down, and we've now finished the first 2 tasks for the lab. We don't have to do the tasks in order, but we can open up the task list and track where we're at. And jump around if we get stuck. So we can just keep making forward progress. Let's go ahead and do the last task for this first sheet, which is we need to fill in the third column with yes or no answers on whether or not sales increased in March and April over January and February. So I'll use an if function here. I'll say if G2 is greater than F2, show yes, otherwise show no. And I was expecting a no, that's what I got. So it looks like we did it right. I'll flash fill that in, and the data looks right. All right. At any point, the student can save the data back to our servers and close the lab. We've now got a copy of their work on our servers, and the student can pick up where they left off. The next day, they can switch computers. They can go home and work on this from a Mac. These are all options that are available to the student to keep it easy for them. So we'll go ahead and jump back into the lab, and we're going to do one more task. When I reopen the lab, we're going to be right where we left off. And now I'm going to jump over to task 8. Task 8 is we're asking the student to add colors to the title bar of this data set here. I'm going to do this task a little bit right and a little bit wrong. Instead of applying just a fill to the top row, I'm going to apply it to the entire table. So we're giving the student flexibility that they can go and choose any color they'd like, but we've told them to do it to a specific region. So we're going to give the student credit for this, but we'll let them know that they really should have just applied it to this region. Okay. Now that I've finished this task, I'll save it, and we'll go back to LabSim, and we see that it has the most recent copy of our work that was saved at 10:45. We could continue the lab, but for the demo, we'll stop now and we'll score what we've done. When I click on score, I immediately get the score results for the work I've done. And we can see that I got credit for the first 3 tasks, which is what we expected. We got credit for adding the fill color to the title row, but it also, LabSim is giving us a little nudge that we filled too many cells. We should have just done A1 to C1, and it gives us the steps of how we can do this better next time. If I'm confused by my score, I can review and reopen the last project I submitted as a student, and I can go and check to see maybe what I did wrong and what I can do better next time. We're also making this ability available to teachers. So here I've logged in as a teacher, and I can go and review what my class has done for any of the live projects. Let's go ahead and open up a class report, and we'll look at what work was done on the 5.11.3 resource. So I'll open up this report. I'm going to navigate us to 5.11.3, and we can see that Shawn has worked on this lab 17 times. He's been practicing a lot. What his highest score, lowest score, and most recent project effort was, we just scored at 10:45, and we got a 23%. As a teacher now, I can open up the report and see which task my student did. I can even go and open up the document the student worked on and check their work, and then I can give the student specific guidance on what they did right and what they missed, and I can help guide them if they're getting stuck or confused. This is available so I could go and look at their work on any, their worst, their best, or their most recent project, and on any student in the class. Okay, that wraps up my demo. Thanks for checking out our sneak peek, and these live projects will be available when we release Office Pro 6.1 on August 4th. I'm going to turn the time back over to Jeff now. Thanks.
I'm looking at our time. We only have a little bit of time left. I think I was going so fast, and I apologize. I didn't explain remediation. Shawn was showing that with our live labs. When a student finishes any of the labs, they do get step-by-step remediation. So again, we give them all the answers, we give them all the help that they need. So like this was that first one I was showing you, the grade book. I can see what I do right, but we do tell them the steps. So I can go back and do this lab over and over again until I get 100%. The question is asked a lot is, so do I just go back and fix the question that I missed and then you get 100%? The answer is no. If you go back into the lab, you have to redo the entire lab. That's a little, again, on purpose, because it's one of those things that help build proficiency. The more times you do it, and again, if you know what you're doing, these labs go really, really, really quickly. Another experience with my daughter with one of these, just she couldn't figure out one answer with the steps. And I watched her complete the entire lab within like 45 seconds until she got to that one question. So really, when you know what you're doing, it's not like a huge investment of time, and again, builds the proficiency. Book, class score report. Again, here's the report. I got those first 4 right. Those are the ones that were wrong, and then we do get the answers, step by step, so they can go back into the lab. So we give, again, keeping students going to you to be the path of least resistance. Give me the answers. Tell me how to do it. This lets them figure these things out on their own. All right, the last part that we wanted to cover is that we do have practice tests, especially for those that are high school looking for Microsoft Office certification. We have 2 forms for Word and 2 forms for Excel and PowerPoint. Will they look exactly like the exam? No. But is it like the exam? Yes. It gives scenarios. They need to complete several tasks. And if they can pass these, they'll do well on the exam. We also provide for teachers an MOS guide on things that you can include throughout the class period with your students, in addition to what we're doing, so that they'll do well on the test. And I actually really love this little section, preparing for the Microsoft certification. It has some strategies for students when they're given a question and they're not exactly sure what to do. So these are really great, good practice tests. We also have, again, practice tests for our own certification. This is one a lot of colleges use as a final for their students. It's a single exam, again, for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and there's some practice tests in there. You can use these also as other assessment pieces for your students. So I guess we'll end it there. Hopefully, just kind of to wrap it up, that you can see that we've raised the bar in a lot of areas. We didn't even get to other things like what we do to help you as a teacher. We didn't get into a lot of details about how adaptable it can be for in the classroom or for online or hybrid. We didn't get into some of the services that we provide that you need to get started well, and what TestOut can do for you, and why we raise the bar in all those areas as well. But from our learn section, from the videos to the skills to the challenge to applied, now our live projects towards the end, you put it all together. To me, I just think a lot of the things that I've looked at before, this resonates with me personally. It's a great way to learn. It's so simple, so easy, and it works. It works well, and that's about all I have to say. Thank you for the time. I'll turn it over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Jeff. And reminder, we do have a questions panel. I've been keeping track of a lot of the questions coming in, so we're gonna get to those just now. And as a reminder, when we finish up the questions, we will have a post-webinar survey that asks you a little bit about the things that you need, whether it's instructor access or additional things that we can help you with at TestOut. Starting off though, several questions about the difference between Desktop Pro and Office Pro. Jeff, can you answer that for us?
Well, we just changed the name. It's really a lot of the same content. We just went to Office Pro, and so we wanted to get everybody over to Office Pro because this is where the live projects will be added. It's really all the same content, just different name.
Yep, so it was mainly a name change, just to align a little bit more with our training. So you will see similar content, but obviously the Office Pro is the most updated content.
Yes.
And it does cover Office 2019.
Correct.
The next question, a few of these I might take. The next one was about price with live projects. Live projects are going to be included with Office Pro. This isn't an incremental cost. And one thing to clarify with live projects is it's not a requirement for students to be proficient in Microsoft Office and to learn the skills. It's something that we've added as real world scenarios, summative assessments that students can get their hands into the actual application. But they can still, for those who are using, say, a Chromebook that doesn't have the installed version of Office, they wouldn't be able to use live projects on that, but they will still gain the skills and the proficiency and everything that's required to be successful with Office. The next question was on instructor access. We will provide instructor access to Office Pro to whoever needs it as an instructor. We have in the post-webinar survey an option for you to select that. And you can reach out to TestOut, or if you have an account representative with TestOut, we have many ways that you can get instructor access. Another question we had, this might be for Shawn if you're with us, is just we have Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. What about Access and Outlook Live Labs?
We don't have any of the live labs planned for Access or Outlook. The technology we're using is called WebDAV, Web Development, Authoring, and Versioning. It's something that natively Excel, PowerPoint, and Word have support for. Access, Microsoft has not created a version of Access that has support for that. And Outlook, to our concern, is having students configure and connect to calendars and to email servers would be something they'd have to do before they could even get started on the lab. So we didn't feel like we could create a good experience for students with those live projects. So we don't have those planned right now. We've just got simulated support for Access and Outlook.
Thanks, Shawn. Several questions on LMS usage. For those not familiar with TestOut, we do sync with all major LMS providers such as Canvas, Schoology, Blackboard, Moodle, and that does include grade syncing, where if someone goes through your LMS, if they go through Canvas, it works as a single sign-on. They complete their activities in TestOut, and those grades automatically push back to Canvas. So that is an option, and we do have setup and integration teams that help you get that set up if you need help with that. Another question on the live projects for Shawn is, is about saving. Is there auto saving that occurs, or do they need to click the save button?
They need to click the save button. They can. Word, Excel, PowerPoint has an auto save feature the student can turn on, but that I think Office leaves that off by default. Of course, when they go to close the project, it'll warn them that it hasn't been saved, and at that point they can save it up.
Okay, thanks. And then I did mention that Office Pro covered Office 2019. We still do cover Office 2016 with Desktop Pro, and we have not retired that course at this time. So if you're not up to 2019, we do still have preparation for Office 2016. And then one last, well, I still have more coming in. Support with Google Classroom. That was a question several have asked now. I do not have the answer to that right off the top of my head. If it is an LTI compliant LMS, so if it uses the LTI standards, we do have the opportunity to integrate with it. But off the top of my head, since I'm not the integration guy, I'm the course product manager, I don't have that. So I will have to track down that answer. And then if you have any other questions, pop them in. I'm still just going through those. Another one that Shawn or Jeff can help with, I think Shawn can help with. Office 365 has fewer features than the full version of Office. Have we taken that into account?
We're testing with all the versions. Like just this week, we discovered that the Mac version of PowerPoint doesn't support trimming videos. So we're making sure that we don't have a task for that. But yeah, we've been testing that we could do every lab completely in each of the versions we've outlined.
And so what versions of Office do we support with Live Labs?
Everything from 2010 to current on Windows and on Macintosh, but not the online version. It has to be the desktop installed version of Office.
Thank you, Shawn. And then with those that having questions about pricing, that pricing model is a little bit different between higher education and K-12 and number of students. So we can reach out individually and help out with that. We have account representatives that handle the ordering, the pricing, and other questions you may have with that aspect. With that, I think we've covered a majority of the questions. If we didn't get to your question and you have some needs that you need, my specific email is akeys, A-K-E-Y-S, @testout.com. I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction if I haven't been able to get to your question. I would like to thank Jeff and Shawn for getting on with us today. And again, we're very excited for the live projects that'll be coming out. That'll be August 4th. We do have complimentary instructor access for those, so you'll be able to take a look at them with no obligation. And with that, we really value the time that you've spent with us. We value your input and your feedback as it helps us build better courses. And we look forward to working with you in the future. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.